So this is a tutorial about gaining some of the basic tools on how to create a creative audio project. In this we will be recording some text, and I'm going to be using some text by Pauline Oliveros from her article Some Sound Observations, which is in the Audio Culture Reading in Modern Music. With it, I've collected some sounds from freesound.org. We have some paper, some wind and leaves, some wind, an airplane landing, and some keys tinkling. This will make more sense as it relates to the text from Pauline Oliveros. There will also be an audio clip that I'm going to be bringing in. I've created the audio clip. It's a previous audio work that I had. So with that, we'll be making a loop and things like that. So what the first thing we want to do is open up Audacity. This will be the program we're going to make this in. We're going to create a new project. And we see we have it opened up here. A couple of things we want to make sure at the beginning. If these things don't really make sense, don't worry, just kind of stick to the standard. We want to make sure, if you look down in the bottom left corner, that we're at 44.1. For those who know a little more about the sampling rate and all that, you might be wanting to use 48 or above, but in general, if you stick to 44.1, you'll be fine. Also, in the preferences, just under Audacity, we open up preferences. If we go to quality, excuse me, in the default sample format, you have the sampling rate, so we'll stick to the 44.1. Also, there's the sample format 32-bit float. That'll work. You want at least 24-bit, but the default is 32. So for right now, that's fine. Just make sure you're at 24 or above, and at least 44,100 hertz, 44,100 hertz. So the first thing we're going to want to do is import some audio. So under File, we're going to scroll down to Import and go to Audio. So we'll open up the dialog window. Now I have my audio files here, so I'm just going to bring in the music file on its own just to start. You notice we get this warning. This is just a warning asking if you want to make a copy of the file before editing, and yes you do. You always want to do this. So we're going to bring this in. So before we do anything, the next thing we're going to do is under File, we're going to save our project. And we'll give you a little here, that's okay. So you want to choose where, and I'm going to save it under this video tutorial. And I'm just going to call it Project 1, call it whatever you'd like. That will save all your files into that folder, which is very important. You do not want to have your files all over the place. It's not uncommon, especially when you're working on different computers, to have files end up everywhere. So just a good practice to right from the beginning to have all your files in one folder on your computer, your hard drive, wherever they are. Okay, the first thing you want to do is play it. You'll notice a kind of standard playback part of the toolbar here. We're just going to play that. There we go. There's the music. And you'll notice from the waveform, you'll see here we can automatically we can see that there's 3 different sections here. So we'll even just kind of sample each of them. And you just get an idea of the different parts of the music. One thing you'll notice, we have the timeline here, 0 to 4 minutes and 15 seconds. I point this out because when working with audio, it's very common to be going in from microseconds to even hours, depending on the size of your project. So we're just going to look up here at the toolbar, and the default is the selector tool, which allows us to select different areas within the file, as you can see I'm doing here. we're just going to switch it to the magnifying glass or the zoom tool, which now allows us to zoom in on a particular area. See, we'll zoom in. You'll notice there's a little plus on the icon. If I hit shift, you'll notice it goes to a negative sign. So we'll zoom out. You'll notice now we're looking at about 17 minutes worth of on the timeline, and then zoom in, and we can go right in to the sample level. So I'm just going to go back here to select an area. You see here you have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 samples in this area I selected. Now if you remember at the beginning we picked 44,100 hertz. That essentially means there's 44,100 of these samples per second. So that gives you an idea of how close we are zoomed in on this audio. So I'm just going to play this from this close and slowly zoom out. You can kind of just see things coming more and more into view until we're back out and we can see it, the scroll along. Okay, so I'm just going to stop that. Now another thing to note, we are looking at a stereo track, and we can tell that because there's 2 tracks here. The common formats tend to be a stereo track, which are 2, and then a mono track, which would be just 1. I believe one of the files we will be importing is a mono track. Really the thing to be aware of is that when you are cutting and pasting, we need to create stereo tracks for stereo tracks. That will become a little more apparent later on, but just something to make note of. So we have the selector tool, and we'll just select an area. One thing we can delete. You'll notice the area I selected is now gone. I'm just going to undo. Control Z will undo. You can also get all these kind of edits by going to the edit drop-down window. Copy, paste. It's very much similar to any of the text editors you have. You can copy, paste, and pretty much everything else. So the first thing usually someone would like to do with an audio file is make a loop. So we're going to quickly do that. So we're going to zoom out. I'm going to play it from the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our zoom tool and just zoom in on the first few seconds here. And what we're going to do is just isolate the first part. So we're just going to listen to it again, so we can see what's going on here. There's the next part. So what we're going to do is we're just going to highlight this beginning area here. I've gone over this beat a little bit, and you'll notice here, if I just play it again, there's the beginning of it, and there's the second part. I want to select just this first part of the music. So I've gone a little over what I actually want, but I'm going to fix that later. So we're going to copy that, which is Command C. Copy that. Again, you can do that here. Copy. We're going to go up to tracks, add a new track, and here we need another stereo track because we're working with a stereo track. And you'll notice another one comes up, so we now have 2 tracks. And I'm just going to click anywhere on here for the moment. Click and paste. So Command V. Paste, Command V. And we now have that selection that we grabbed from the original track. So we're going to use another tool now, this one with the double arrow. What this allows you to do is move this to anywhere you'd like. I'm just going to put it up on the beginning. You notice when it's lined up, you'll notice the yellow line comes in. That'll be handy later on, well, in a couple of seconds when we're making the loop, just so you know that that's right at the beginning. And then now I'm going to zoom in on the end just to clean up this audio. Now, we can see that this is the beginning of the next beat and that we do not want for this loop. So we're going to zoom in a little more, and we are going to cut out that part, trying to start it where the waveform crosses the 0 line. Now that just makes it easier and more efficient to create a fade on, because if we don't do that, we can often create clicks in editing. So we've now made that edit. We're just going to, with the same tool, we're just going to select a very tiny bit of the file, just microseconds here. Go up to Effect, and here we have our fade in and fade outs. So what we are essentially doing, we are at the end of the file, so we want to fade that out. And you'll notice the wave file, I'll just undo that, the wave file shrinks when we do that, letting us know that it has done what we want it to do. So now we'll zoom back out. Zoom back out. We're going to grab this whole file. You notice the little finger comes up. We see the yellow line again, letting us know that we are at the beginning of the file. I'm just scrolling over as I do it. So I'm holding down the button so that it keeps, if I let go and click again, we lose it. So you want to click and drag. We see the yellow line, we know we're there. We're on the right spot. And it will kind of lock you to it. Bam. There we go. We see the yellow line. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy. And then with your right arrow, if you hit the right arrow on your keyboard, what it does is it lines up the cursor, you see here, with the end of the file. So now if I go up to Edit and do Paste, Control V, we now have another file beside it. So we'll zoom out a little bit. You have another zoom option here, zoom in, zoom out. So sometimes it's just a little easier to do that. So we'll zoom out. So now we have two files. So we're just going to go back to the beginning. We're going to click solo so that we're only hearing this track, and then we'll play it. There we go. So now we have the starting of a loop. So if we wanted to have that as the only part of the audio that we wanted, what we could do is just go to the end, put our cursor there, we see the yellow line letting us know that it's lined up with the end of the file, and paste again, hit our right arrow, paste again, hit our right arrow, and we can do that as many times as we'd like. Essentially now we will have a loop.